Strange and Deadly series, as well as the ongoing Witchland series. And yeah, that's about it. Am I supposed to say something else?
Because we'll get into it. I already talked.
You can Google. Yes, just Google. I'm Sandhya Menon. I wrote When Nimble Met Rishi. And yeah, that's it.
I'm Brendan Reichs. Everybody's got it now. I wrote the Viral series and a new book called Nemesis, which has its sequel, Genesis, which comes out in March.
Yeah.
And if you guys know another word that rhymes with Nemesis and Genesis, my third book in the series is currently untitled. There's not a lot of good options, like syphilis,
Just right contest.
It's tough.
Kinesis. Kinesis.
What's that?
Kinesis.
Yeah, see, we've been, listen, I've done it.
Alright, I did it until after I wrote it. But I also, this is spoilery, sorry. The first book in Truth, which we see Merrick's older sister, Divya, and she's kind of like Azula from But my thought was like, what if Azula had legit reasons? So in Wind Witch, we actually have Divya's point of view, and you realize like she's not bad at all. And Merrick is just a misogynist jerk. So yeah, so it was similar. It was like she's the villain in book one, and then in book two, she's actually the heroine. And yeah, I didn't think about it though until you said it. Like, oh, I did support that. Go me.
You were like, what am I going to talk about?
Thank you.
I was like,
That's how I started.
I almost pulled out my phone and like took notes. I was like, no, wait, I did do one. But like, so in Nemesis is about a girl named Min who's 16, and every 2 years on her birthday, she's murdered by the same man. This guy in a black suit comes to her and kills her. Except for she wakes up about an hour later without a scratch on her and no evidence of the crime. And so this has been going on since she was 8. So she finally, at the beginning of the book, is murdered for the 5th time on her 16th birthday and decided that she's had enough. So she has to figure out what's going on with her. And it's really a thriller because it ends up implicating like a global conspiracy that may threaten all life on Earth based in her small Idaho hometown. So it's a thriller, you know, and I'm writing a thriller, and it's just like a very fast-paced book. Like it doesn't really stop, and it goes, you know, all through the story, and a lot of twisty things happen. So that's very standard. That's what I like to write and what I like to read. But when I was doing my characters, first I realized when I wrote this book, I had never written a male point of view. The Viral series is all from a female protagonist. So I was excited, like, I'm going to write a boy. But I quickly didn't. My main lead was a girl, but I decided I wanted to do both. And so I'm writing these two characters, and it's like, okay, you've got, and I did not want to write a boy, like, brooding YA hero. That's what I was not going to do. And so I thought, what if I make my male character just like a hot mess? Like he's barely keeping it together, because you find out that the same thing's been happening to him, and he's popular. But when you get into his perspective, you realize like he is really messed up about this. He can barely function, and he breaks down a lot when people don't know it. So I thought, there's a lot of great YA I haven't read, so I can't speak to whether there's other books like this. But I hadn't read a male character that really was super fragile, and the female lead basically carries him through the story. And so I thought that would be fun, just to flip that. So that's what I did. I wrote a guy he's got issues. He is being murdered every 2 years on the third.
It is valid. For When Dimple Met Rishi, I had a couple of tropes that I tried to subvert in there. So firstly, I think there's this general idea that girls are really into relationships and wanting to get married, and boys are more ambitious and independent. And so in my book, the girl is more ambitious and independent, and the boy is very romantic and wants to get married. And the other one that I did was arranged marriage. So I think like there's this idea in Western culture that arranged marriage is kind of gross, and like it's usually between a super old guy and like a super young woman, and their parents like force them together against against the girl's wishes and stuff. And in my family, that's not at all what my experience was. So usually the parents are very careful about who they select. They select somebody from a similar background, with similar interests, of the similar age, and so that's kind of what I wanted to show arranged marriage in like a funny way, but also like a real positive way for people who, that's their reality. Sorry, really pissed me.
Yeah. I know. Don't do what I did. But yeah, sometimes you
you don't want the happy bow, and then readers really wanted the trope, and they're really mad at you. Some people love it. You end up with a very love or hate the book situation. People claim they don't want tropes. People love tropes.
So in the last line of my viral series, I was like wrapping it up, putting the bow on. I was like, it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna put something in here that's open-ended. And it's gonna be like, people are gonna be like, I wonder what that is about. Wow, that'd be great. No. Listen, everyone hates you. Everyone hates you, and they write emails. So I'm getting crushed by this. Like, what did that mean? What did that mean? I was like, well, you're just supposed to do. No, what did it mean? So I ended up having to write an e-short and put it out there to answer the question that I left open, because people were furious and they hate you. And they're like, 1 star in your book. It's like, you read 6 of these and now you're mad? So yeah, like, tie up your loose ends.
Will you write a little ending for Inception for me? Because that movie's ending. Is anyone else still haunted by that?
I still didn't follow it. They were asleep.
I know, I wrote one. You know, my problem is my problem with love triangles. I don't like the ones where it's a girl who has 2 perfect, amazing guys in love with her and would do anything for her, just because I'm like, I can't even find one. Oh, I'm so sorry. What a horrible decision you have to make. 2 gorgeous guys who move the world for you. Oh, I'm like, no.
Look, Elizabeth, I've been there. It's really hard.
I'm so sorry.
I think it's like the ones I hate the most. Well, I think we would all agree on this, but like are the race-based tropes. When you get like Asian sidekick or angry black woman, and you see it coming, and then you see that character, and that's all they do is like one-dimensional. Those are are to be avoided. Like, it's not saying you can't ever have any characteristic based with any type of person, but like, you guys know the ones that are out there that you see too often, and they're best avoided. They don't add anything to a story. And that's when you're kind of putting a package of information in your story that you didn't want there when you bring that in. It's funny, I'm in an MFA program in Vermont, and among the 38,000 little traditions that you have for your class, one of it is we have to name ourselves. So we almost stopped being friends over this process, but we came up with our name, so we were the Trope Busters. That's our name, get it? Get it? It's funny.
A lot of times we see women as like the weaker, having to be rescued, and that trope just needs to die. I hate that trope. But I think in YA especially, we're seeing a lot more like diversity in how female characters are presented, which is really cool. I love the enemies to lovers trope. Okay, I would say that all day long. It was something good. We don't come back. Move on. Sorry, guys. I like lots of tropes, but I play the long game. So you guys aren't going to know I'm subverting them until the end of the series. You just have to wait. Keep reading, please. Buy my book. Prophecy trope. Because it's like such an easy way to be like, they are special. They were born under this special constellation on the day of the comet. And
What kind of accent was that?
I want to know more.
What are you doing?
That was my high seer accent. I can read your futures, guys. I didn't sleep last night. But I like the ones that do that, where it's like you think this is the prophecy trope, but just you have no idea. You have no idea what's coming, and it's going to be totally spoiler alert.
With sexy results.
Sexy results. So, yeah. Have any of you guys read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Moon?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, it's not as many hands as I would like. It's so good, but it's daunting because it's huge. But that has the greatest subversion of the prophecy trope ever. So check it out just for that.
Subverts tropes. Did I say that right? And that's interesting because authors have no control over marketing. We have say, but then you hear a phrase. Yeah, you hear a phrase that's called, everyone here loves it. And what that means is we're not spending any more money on this. Like, it's done. It's over.
They'll email
Thank
you like, this is what we're going to do. Everyone's really happy with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like, it can ruin a book. A book's marketing or even its cover or whatever, if it makes it look like it's something that it's not, and especially in the trope that it can ruin a book because people don't want it. They're like, oh, it's not that, but you're like, actually it's deeper and it's much, but they don't get to it because it's marketed in a certain way. And marketing, they like pitchy one sentences, so like you got to be very, very careful of that.
My first series, sorry, I interrupted.
No, you didn't.
My first series had tragic covers with girls in dresses. It was like a paranormal romance.
It's about steampunk ghost hunters in the 1870s.
Awesome.
No paranormal elements. And then they also kept saying it was a zombie book. It's really not. I mean, there are some like Walking Dead, but it's about magic and necromancy and steampunk Ghostbusters. So yeah, that really just ruined it, which I understand why. People picked it up expecting this romance and happily ever after. That's not what they got, so they wrote really angry emails. and that's not anything I had any control over. And it sucks sometimes, but everyone was really happy with that cover. So
Yeah, that's the thing you just reminded me. Like, I think marketing starts with the cover. And I remember when we were writing, or we were having the marketing call for When Dimple Met Rishi, like one of the things I really didn't want them to do was like put a lot of like heavily cultural elements on the cover, because that's not what the book is about. It's like about Indian Americanness, so I really wanted that blend, and that was something that we really had to talk about, because like as soon as you put out a cover, you're sending a message to people about what's in this book. And I didn't want it to be like relegated to like a multicultural corner somewhere. I wanted like your average teen to be able to pick it up whether they were Indian American or not. And so I think that's really important. But again, like we have so little control over that. Like I could say that, but happily they went with what I wanted, but I mean, they could have easily gone the other way too.
It's by Lance Rubin. And it was one of the funniest books I'd ever read. And I was like, genuinely went back and read it again and take it apart. I'm like, why are it seem so funny? Because it's like, it's a laugh out loud book. Like you don't read many things when you're young, you actually laugh. And I was like, oh, that's funny, So like, that would be a book I'd recommend. But if you wanted to do like, a meet cute, anything by Steph Perkins, I would say. Because like, she structures them perfectly, So you sort of have to target what you're looking for, But we could go all day for like examples. Well, I could. I just did.
That's really what we do though, and when you're trying to learn your craft, or once you are still learning your craft and you're published, is you break down the stories you like, not just books, but movies. I like video games, so I break those down, and I try to see like, what did they do, and why did I like that so much? Like, how can I use those tools in my own writing? And sometimes it makes it hard to read, because then you don't turn that off.
Yeah.
It's really hard to like step into a book then, because you see the architecture.
Like, oh, nice white space. Or
there's times where I'm like, I bet your editor must have that. I have to tell you to put that in, and your editor asked you for more description here. So yes, I agree. Just as long as you're reading books, like just break them down, be analytical. I underline and make doggy ears.
I also love Bird by Bird. That Menon is like one of my favorite books about writing, if you're looking for like nonfiction.
I actually just did like, I don't know if you follow it online, but I did like a tweet thing, Twitter, what do you call it, thread, of all of like writing craft books that I recommend. So I think there's a link on my website, susanminner.com/4-writers.
And you should go to her website. She's got a good craft thing going. Like that's like she's an author that does a lot of like writing about craft and stuff like that, and it's all there. So I go there to read stuff.
And I'm now turning into like a sea otter that you don't know what's going to come from me. And like some people are going to like it and some people aren't, but at the end of the day, it's like I have to do, when you write a book, you're with it for a very long time. You're with the characters for a long time. You read it many, many times. You have to edit, you have to look at it. And if you're writing because you think something's going to be hot or whatever, like it's not going to, it's going to be a disaster.
And then it's like, it takes 2 years to even get to the shelf, so like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I totally agree with you. But like for me,
Are you a dolphin or a sea otter?
I'm a dolphin because.
But you're only like on your second, So.
Yeah, and
but being a dolphin is good.
No, it is a good thing. Yeah.
Everybody likes dolphins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like one of my favorite authors is Sophie Kinsella.
Oh,
so
yes.
When I pick up her books, I know exactly what I'm going to get, and that's what I wanted to do for my readers.
Why you pick it up? Because then you want more of that. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important ways too, if you don't want to, even when you are writing a formula, to make sure that you don't get redundant, because there's a difference between following a formula and having your happily ever after at the end. and finding a unique way to feed that to the reader, right? And so I have found personally, you guys may be different, but for me the key is to have constant input and actual time away from writing, because if I'm burned out, then I'm going to run out of ideas, and that's when it's going to start to feel flat and like copy. Like I'm just writing more of the same old stuff because I literally am a one-trick pony, because I'm not taking breaks and refilling my well to get new input. And so for me, yeah, the way I like let the ideas become different and unique is getting as much input as I can, and also giving those ideas time to bake. I'm not the kind of person who can just have an idea and then start writing it tomorrow. I need like at least 2 years.
Yeah, very.